Just incredibly excited to be one of the 64 teams headed to the NCAA tournament. And as Joel said, we were able to get that automatic bid last week at a very tough conference tournament. I thought it was a great couple of matches, a great battle that has prepared us well. We had SIU, who was a team that we had only played once due to the unbalanced schedule. Had a good match there and battled. And then obviously in the finals, playing Drake again and again going the distance, 5 sets. But just super proud of our team and being able to hang in there. We had a lot of things going on throughout those 2 matches, some ups and downs. I thought the tournament in general was really high-level volleyball by all teams there. It was a lot of fun to be a part of, and I'm just really proud of our kids. Especially you win the first 2 sets and then you lose 2 sets really close, and we've won a lot of close sets this year. So that feeling going into the 5th set, and we haven't been in a 5th set since early in September. So just really proud of our kids and their ability to hang in there and battle in that 5th set. I would like to thank our crowd that came. Springfield's a long ways away, but we had a great following, and I do think we're difference makers. They were loud and proud for sure, so just thankful for all that. And then also thank you to Steve and his crew at Peppers for hosting our selection show last night. They do a great job. And I thought we had an awesome turnout, so it's really cool to see the number of people that showed up and really care about what we're doing and where we're going. We're excited. Obviously, having a seed this year was really cool. I don't really know if it really makes a difference in terms of until you seed all 64 teams. I don't know how much of a difference it makes, but I do think it's a testament to the work that our team and our staff has put in this season, and so really proud of that. But heading to Wisconsin, a place where we feel good about the fact that we have a lot of fans that can travel and support us there. Secondly, it will be an amazing NCAA tournament environment. They do it well there. They're going to have a packed house. I've heard it's already sold out. So just a really good NCAA tournament atmosphere, which is something you definitely hope for your team. We do face Miami out of Florida, the ACC conference, a team that obviously we're watching film today and breaking down that film and trying to figure out what makes them so good. But a couple things initially, they run a 5-1. It looks like they run a very fast offense. They have a lefty on the right side who's from Puerto Rico, who actually leads the ACC in kills per set, which that's a great conference, and so to be the top of that is a pretty big deal. They have several players that are grad players, so they're very talented, very veteran team, so a lot to prepare for. And again, just being able to break down film and look at what our matchups potentially could be like will be something that we do. I think the tough part is it is a quick turnaround. The team, like Miami, has had a lot of great conference matches. So some of their big wins in my mind, Georgia Tech, they swept Georgia Tech twice. Georgia Tech's a team that's been in the top 10 to 15 all season long, so 2 really good wins. And then they've had really good matches against teams like Louisville and Pitt, so have had a lot of good high-level competition throughout their conference season. So a lot to prepare for. Obviously, this time of year, just preparing and watching film, but also making sure we're just rested and ready to go is going to be a big part of that, and healthy. So looking forward to that preparation in a short week, and also just really incredibly thankful about being able to continue the season with this awesome group of young women. Any questions?
You know, for the championship match, being in the spot you were, where Drake wins a challenge to pull within 7-6, what does it take within that moment to rally the team together to get that 8-0 run to finally finish off Drake?
Yeah, I think, Chris, one of the things that we were really, on the bench, as coach is talking about, we were struggling with Overpiller. And Overpiller is a player that we did really well against the first 2 times we played Drake. And she basically was somebody that we weren't able to stop. So Kira is one of our best servers. She was behind the service line. They rotate. If they rotate, they put Overpill in the front row. So as a staff, we're just like, okay, just a couple more points, a couple more. And, we're supposed to be 1 point at a time type of team, that we talk about that a lot. But just wanting to get a couple more points to have a little bit more of an edge before Overpiller got in the front row, I think was huge. But Kira has had several matches throughout the season where she's very capable of going on a really strong service run. We were in a position that they had to set the ball out to Haley Bush every time during that rotation. So it was really good for our defense to be able to focus in on one player. So really proud of that effort and our ability behind the service line, which I've told you can be a real strength for our team for sure.
And with Joel talking about the Scholar Athlete announcement that came out today, as much as we talk about some of the other names that show up on the list, how important is someone like Grace Makota to this team where, among other things, it's easy to get wrapped up in kills and a lot of those big stats, but here she's putting up one of the best reception percentages anyone's ever had and still doing pretty well with her service and everything else that she does on the floor for y'all.
Yeah, Grace, she's just one of a kind. And someday, I'm not going to get into it now, but her story is absolutely incredible. And the fact that she's on the court and the fact that she makes the Scholar Athlete team, I mean, there's no way she would have thought that 2 years ago. I mean, she wasn't even going to join our team. It was a very last minute thing. Just an incredible story. But I think the thing about Grace is she's one of the most selfless players there is too. So besides all of the things, she's fearless and she's selfless. So she has a lot of those intangibles that you really hope and pray for as coaches. You know the skill and all those things, but those intangibles make a big difference, and she's got some pretty special intangibles for sure.
You mentioned that Miami runs it fast. I've heard you say that about a couple of teams you played this year. What team on your schedule does Miami most remind you of?
Yeah, for sure. I do think some things they do offensively are very similar to Drake. And Drake Oberpiller was a lefty on the right side, so their strongest player offensively is definitely that player on the right side, which I think Drake has the same combination, but still really good players everywhere else. So it's not something, I think that was a thing against Drake. We were putting a lot of focus on other players because we just weren't able to stop her, and we just worked to try to slow her down. So I think Drake is a great comparison in terms of what they do offensively. They're a little bit more physical, I would say, not probably a little bit more physical, a lot more physical in those positions as well. But I do think that type of offense is very similar to what Drake does. Probably run their middles a little bit more than what Drake has in the past, but as far as what they do pin to pin, very similar.
Granted, this is a position you're very familiar in being in, getting ready for the NCAA tournament. Does your prep change at all year to year, or do you try to keep it pretty standard?
Yeah, a lot of it's pretty standard. A lot of it depends on how we're physically feeling in the moment, the injuries that we're trying to nurse through. So there's a lot of that. I think the playing on Thursday versus Friday changes things a little bit. I think we've only done that maybe once. That I can remember, played on a Thursday. So it does change things. I honestly, unfortunately, thought for sure we'd play on Friday. So some of the things we did prior to, when you can practice and do some things. And so we ended up practicing Saturday, Sunday, thinking we'd take today off. But now we play on Thursday, so we had to adjust that a little bit. So it does change in my mind a little bit based on how you're physically feeling, and then obviously playing on Thursday.
Kayla, so what's she meant to the program over her 5 years here?
Yeah, Kalyssa, again, when you talk about selflessness, she was a player that when she first came in, she played right away. And it's hard to play as a freshman. And she was playing in the front row next to a stud like Carly Taylor. So her opportunities to score were a lot more her freshman year, just because a lot of people paid attention to Carly. And then obviously Kalyssa does a great job, comes in her next year, and people will start focusing on her. So her numbers changed, but what she's meant to the team definitely did not change. So it was hard for her initially to adjust to that. And then obviously she had some physical things that shoulder surgery, so she was not able to get back into a point where we could actually use her. We had some people that we felt we could put in instead of her, and so she had a very different role. And her selflessness during that time, in my opinion, helped her to be able to get on the court this year, because if she would not have taken that the way she did, I think she would not be a contributor on our team as far as on the court this season. One of the most physical blockers we've ever had. We're definitely going to miss that, and obviously her energy when she's able to do that and block for us. So, and it's not just the physical side. She's one of those kids that gets blocking. There's so much strategy and technique to blocking that, as I think that's one of the most undertrained skills coming into college. So she's very high level with that. So just we'll miss that. But just her overall energy and commitment to being a Panther. She bleeds purple and gold, and that's something that when we have players that can just carry on that tradition and what our program really means, that's pretty special.
When it comes to moments like these in the NCAA tournament, Bobbi, will you maybe speak differently to your seniors than you would, juniors or underclassmen?
As far as going out into the tournament,
Preparing or in the match or whenever.
yeah, it's tough because you try not to make it bigger than what it is. It's still just a match, and I think sometimes our players do a good enough job of putting an amount of pressure on themselves. I mean, obviously, as a senior, you're knowing that, okay, this could be my last match. This could be my last match. And when you make the NCAA tournament, that becomes very real. Sometimes you don't know it's going to be your last match because you don't know if you're going to get in and different things like that. So we just try to make it all about being in the moment because it's really special. You know, there's 320 some Division I teams, and to be one of 64 and having that opportunity just to get another day. You know, you're not guaranteed anything after that, but we get another day together. And so just trying to soak it in and not, you know, we have had a lot of tears in the locker room and it's not even been, you know, our last match, but the last match on this court or last conference match. And, you know, we don't want all those emotions. We want them to be able to embrace what they're doing and embrace the moment. So talking a lot about that, just going out there and enjoying this opportunity together wherever it ends up, you know, just making sure that we're doing the things that have made us who we are. You know, we always talk about being who we are and not trying to be anybody else. And our seniors have been a big part of allowing us to do that.
When it comes to tournament volleyball, in other sports, there are certain elements in those sports you can point to and be like, that is raised. Like there's more importance there in this element of the game when the postseason arrives. Is it easy to identify that part when it comes to volleyball in the tournament?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is obviously you're playing teams you don't know, and watching video is great, but you know, the speed at which the ball comes, the float on the serve, there's things like that that you can't really tell from video. So I think in volleyball, the serve and pass game is the biggest part of the game because a lot of people can score if they're in system, and you know, it's just being able to have a good, strong serve and pass game, and I feel like that has been a strength for us throughout the conference season. Now you're playing a different team, probably a different level of team. So not getting caught up in, okay, they have two people that, you know, I talk about Big Deb, our machine that we get out for the Evansville server. They have two people that do that, and so getting Big Deb out. But they're going to do things differently than we've seen all season long, probably at a different level, different physicality. So just being able to talk about it one point at a time, and we're going to score our way, they're going to score their way. So I think that's the biggest thing is teams being able to stay true to who they are, even though we're going to play people that score very differently than we do, if that makes sense.
You touched on the selflessness of a few of your players. Is that a trait based on your years of experience that a player either has or doesn't, or can a team culture develop that in some ways?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I 100% believe that a team culture has to develop that. I think you can be a very selfless person, but to be able to really, to me, being selfless, part of that is understanding your value, even though you're not the person on the court. And if you don't have that, it's really hard to be selfless. But I also think in order to have that, you have to have a team that embraces that and also shows that and makes those people feel that as well. So I think there's not one person on this team, I've said that doesn't understand their value. Now, do they want different roles? 100%. Because if you don't, you have to want that too. You have to want more. You have to want your role to be different. But accepting it in that moment and always working harder to have a different one is huge. But it's the whole team embracing that. And I think that started last year. I think we did a really good job of having that team culture. And I think our upperclassmen have done a really good job of just carrying that forward and it's not, I mean, everyone is valuable. And a coach saying that, you know, it's just the coach saying that. But when you have teammates that embrace that and show that every day, that's where the difference is, in my opinion. All right, thank you.